Hi, this is Stephen Brower. This is an addendum to linked lists, doubly linked lists, and this is something that I should have covered, I guess September would have been. Okay, so the premise behind a doubly linked list is the nodes in a doubly linked list will have the data, which I didn't actually have the word data here, but we'll have the data, and then we'll have a pointer to the next node. But the other thing we'll have is we'll have previous, which is going to point to the previous node. So unlike the singly linked list, which only had the next, only pointing forward, in a doubly linked list from a node, we'll know what's the next node and what is the prior node. So in this example right here, which I have an ordered doubly linked list, cherry, grape, mango, I'm showing as being ordered. And so cherry at the front doesn't have a previous, but its next is pointing to grape. From grape's point of view, its previous is pointing to cherry, and its next is pointing to mango. From mango's point of view, its previous is pointing to grape, and its next is, well, null. Previously, we only had head pointing to the first node in our list. One that will help us is to actually have tail, in case we need to begin at the bottom. So it's not a requirement for doubly linked lists to have the tail. It can just make things, well, easier, as it were. Oh, and by the way, the reason why I just had the previous in the upper left corner and the next in the lower right corner is just so that the arrows don't go too crazy all over the place. It was just to make the drawing on the screen a little bit easier. So suppose we want to add lemon to this linked list. Now I expanded the space here just so that we have a little more room to deal with. But meaning, suppose I wanted to create a new node here between them. What we saw previously, remember we used cursor to march down the list. So suppose we got to mango and we realized, oh, okay, we need to insert lemon before it. And the other thing, suppose we know, okay, we're not at the beginning of the list. So in other words, where there is a node before ours, as opposed to adding something in front of cherry. So if I want to add lemon, now with this statement here, so cursor is currently pointing here. The inner parts of this statement here, new node, so this is the new node it's going to create. I abbreviated lem instead of lemon. That's the value. Cursor get previous. Well, cursor get previous means it's pointing here. So cursor get previous, that's going to go in as the previous. And then cursor, well, that's going to go in as being the next. So this piece right here this piece right here is just creating the node. It is this next piece here, the set previous. Now that the node has been created, it sets the previous from cursor, saying not to point to where it was before, now point it to this, well, this new node that we have created. That takes care of putting this node in. What it doesn't yet take care of is this. Before I step to the next statement, I'm going to, through the magic of PowerPoint, show more cleaner. So that's where the node got added. But now we want to do the next thing. Now, that is the dots from hell. So let's try to step through it a little bit at a time. So cursor get previous. So at the present moment, cursor is here. And previous is this link right here pointing to lemon. So at that point, meaning the cursor get previous is pointing to this node. From here, we're going to get previous. And the previous is going to be this node. So this, which I kind of put as sort of the semicircle here, is saying that now we're on this node here. We want to set its next value we want to set to, well, cursor get previous, which is lemon. So the next is going to then point to lemon. Let me getting rid of all this chicken scratch, then just show the net effect is that the next is pointing to lemon. Okay. Now this particular example I did here was adding in the middle of a doubly linked list, and where we're adding in the middle, we're not at the beginning, and the other thing is we're not adding after the end. So here, imagine if we wanted to add banana in front of this list, meaning I wanted to create a new node here. Well, the new node that we would create would be, the banana. Since we're creating before the head, it's not going to have a previous link. Its next is going to be, to the node where we're adding. From the node that was the head, we need to set its previous to the new node. But now that we now have a new node at the beginning of the list, head has to be changed to the beginning. Now, I don't have the code here on the screen. I've got to give you something to experiment with over the break, right? I don't have the individual lines of code like I did in the prior one, but it would be different code for creating a node before the beginning. Suppose we're creating at the end. So suppose I wanted to add plum, L-M-N-O-P, plum being after mango. And so if I want to create one after mango, this will create the new node. The new node that we create, well, since we're dealing at the end, it's not going to point to anything. Its previous is going to point to, cursor, what we have. We have to make sure for the node that we have, it's now pointing to the new one. But since we now have a new node at the end of the list, then we have to make sure tail is now pointing to this new node. Again, I don't have the lines of code on the screen for this. That's the kind of thing, of course, you can explore over the break. So 2 slides back, I did have the lines of code for adding in the middle. It would be slightly adjusted lines of code for adding the beginning, slightly adjusted for adding at the end.